Hey guys, it's Jess. Welcome back to the table here at Roots and Refuge Farm, where this is the second video in a series that I'm doing with Goldshell Farm to answer your questions about being a content creator. Today, Morgan and I are going to be pulling you into a conversation and just sharing our very different processes of being YouTubers.
Let's do this.
Okay. Now, I think it's really interesting, and I think that there's value in this. You and I are very, very different. We have very different lives and very different processes in creating YouTube videos.
Polar opposites.
Yeah, and I mean, down to like, you're working a full-time job. You and your wife live in the frigid north. Y'all do not have children. You're doing, honestly, you're doing the farming. You're really focusing on trees, ducks, and geese at this point are the three of the things that we've really not touched at all.
Release the Kraken!
I mean, we are doing really different things.
So let's compare and contrast our styles. What are they? How do you do it? Like, when you sit down and say, okay, I want to create a video, what's your process? Well,
for me, I have two very kind of distinct kinds of content on my channel. When I started, my whole motive was I really wanted to like live in a glass house. Like, I wanted to be able to share the reality of our life with people, to inspire them to, you know, simple living, to being family focused, to growing food, being encouraged in their faith. Like, that was really my drive. But then the videos on my channel that really started to kind of explode were more like garden tutorials, because I love to research things. And so I had all this information about gardening in my mind. And when I started to create content about it, it was really helping people. And basically there was this point, this crossroads that came where the garden stuff was doing amazing, and the like everyday vlog stuff was doing just a fraction of the views and the watch time as the gardening stuff. So at that point, instead of just kind of letting one of those go, I decided to just embrace the fact that I was producing two very different kinds of content. So basically my process depends on what kind of content it is. Now I do vlogs regularly, and the way that I do vlogs is there's no introduction. There's no music at the front that's different. There's no logo. There's none of that. I want people to feel like they just picked up where they left off hanging out at my house. Like, that's my goal in producing vlog style content. And so it's very much my viewpoint. There's a lot of me holding the camera, looking at things. And so basically when I'm gonna go through that process, when I know I'm gonna shoot a vlog, I typically think about, what have I not updated recently? What do I feel like doing? Because I really want to evoke a lot of feeling in my viewers. I want to let them experience this sweet life, because I did yearn for it for so long, and I am kind of catering to that older version of me that, you know, 10 years ago when I was dreaming. I really want the homestead dreamer to get to escape to this little place. And so that's really my goal. And honestly, the vlog stuff doesn't always have a specific like point. It's not, we're doing this, here's the resolution of it. It's, let's go and step into this life for a minute. Let me share it with you. That's kind of the goal. Does that make sense?
It totally does. I mean, so if you're getting into that, are you like writing an outline to say, okay, I want to talk about this, and this, I want this, and this to happen, or are you just picking up the camera, turning it on, and running with it?
Well, we do have a lot going on at our house. That is true. And what I am trying to create is kind of this, I want people to feel like they have a place at my table. I want people to feel like they're walking through it with me. And so I'm always like, when I'm talking to the camera, I'm engaging the person on the other side, and I'm thinking of the people that I've met and the messages that we get. And I'm just imagining this viewer, this friend, like going through with me. And so I kind of take the stance of, what would I do if one of my friends came over and I was going to take them around my farm today? Well, we'd go do the basic stuff, like we'd walk through the garden because I do that every day and I've got to see what needs to be picked or whatever. But the baby pigs were just born, so of course I'm going to go take them to see the baby pigs, and we're going to check in with what we see along the way. So that's kind of my viewpoint. I'll generally have a direction that I know that we're going. Kind of the newest happening on the farm, we're definitely going to see that, and then whatever happens in between. I just imagine like a stroll throughout the day with this friend.
Wow. And then, so you get all this footage shot, and you just pull it off your camera and cut it up. Like, are you working really hard to, like, how do you edit?
Okay, this is where I feel like probably the most like maybe self-conscious, or like, oh man. I actually just edit everything on iMovie on my Mac. It's what came on my laptop. I use an external hard drive. I store everything on that and work off the external hard drive, because when you're dealing with this much video, when I talk to people who are just deleting their videos and stuff, I just want to be like, no, don't do that. Get external hard drives. If you're going to shoot YouTube videos, just count that as one of your startup costs. They're about $50.
Oh, wait. Let's pause it, because I got to echo this. This is like the most important thing. There's so much great things you can do with your old footage, from B-roll to flashback to stringing together a longer, larger story. Like, never, ever, 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 ever delete your files. Save them on a hard drive. You will thank yourself. Even if you don't plan to use them for the next 6 months or a year, you will thank yourself. Don't ever do that, please.
I just did this video when we hit 200,000 subs of kind of like a look back. And I mean, I just sat here and ugly cried for days going through my old footage, because this is like my family albums. They are treasures to me. And we had one external hard drive, actually a hardware issue, and we're getting it fixed to retrieve that. And I literally feel like I lost like months of work, even though the videos are posted. All that footage is so valuable.
I did something similar. I actually had a situation where I lost a duck to a predator a couple weeks ago, and I was able to go back to like when she was hatched and like, you know, really see her progression, and just, it was like, oh man, like, it got really dusty in my house. Like, I don't know.
So yeah, I definitely suggest doing that, working off an external hard drive, no matter what your editing process is, making sure you're backing up your footage. But we just use like SD cards, that's what our camera uses, and we come in, we dump those into iMovie, they're backed up on the external hard drive. I am super basic in editing. My friend Daniel actually records all of my music for me, so I'm not dealing with like a loyalty-free music thing or anything like that. So honestly, the way I do that, and this just comes back to like finding your style. When I watch people who do like really dynamic stuff with music, I'm like, that's really awesome. I love it. It's engaging. It's not my style. Like I've had to kind of like, that whole comparison is this thief of joy. Like, I love my style, but sometimes I'm like, oh, is that better than what I'm doing? And it's like, no, I have what I do. And I love Daniel's music. It is so peaceful for me, and because I want to create that feeling of people stepping into a peaceful place and engaging, walking around their friend's farm, I love having that music just playing low in the background, where it's just sort of setting the tone. And it's really special to me because like, he actually has spent a lot of time on my farm, and when he makes that music, he's just recording it off the cuff and creating the sounds that he feels like portray my farm. And that is so special. And so that I just literally come in, cut the clips, put them all in a row, just kind of bringing people in for their little 15-minute visit to my house with that music on the background. It probably takes me to edit a vlog, like less than an hour, I would say, probably less than an hour. And then I guess thumbnails during that process, kind of my idea with the thumbnail is, I was a photographer for 10 years. And so when you're a photographer, you are a lover of good light. And for me, I shoot my videos either in the morning or in the evening during the warm golden light when it's not super bright and harsh. And that's just the photographer in me that loves the glow of that and not having to, you know, combat squinty eyes and shadows and all of that stuff. And so whenever I'm shooting the video, if I just notice a moment that has really great light, I'll just stop and like smile at the camera, you know, like I'm taking a picture, and I just screen grab that, and I'll do a quick edit on it, making sure that it's like sharpened and contrast, and then that's my thumbnail. So that's my process for a vlog.
And it's so different than what I do. I mean, it's remarkable, but you know, so it's funny that you should say that, you know, your background as a photographer plays a role in how you think about developing your videos. For me, it's actually, so I grew up drawing lots of comic strips and comic books and reading comic books and being very fascinated with that medium. And that drives like a lot of how my videos get created, because for me, I don't even pick up a camera or start doing anything until I have an idea of, well, what's the overall story I'm trying to tell? You know, it's like, okay, I've got this big picture story of this guy trying to start a farm. But then within each video, there's a smaller story that I'm trying to tell. So what is that? Okay, I'm trying to get the mother to hatch some duck eggs, or I'm dealing with a bobcat kind of going around my farm, picking off my ducks. Like, it's real life, it's happening, and that's the story. And so that I start with that as my idea, and then I try to come up with a way to capture it in a title and a thumbnail. And so I will, on like a little 3x5 card, sketch out the thumbnail and say, okay, this is the type of image I want. It's not always exactly that, but you know, it's funny. I can actually go to the video we did a couple weeks ago together where we're doing the tomato contest, and I had a picture of you with goggles on with tomatoes in front of you. Like, that was the idea for it. And if you look at the actual thumbnail, it's that. And so I spend a lot of time with that, because I've found that for YouTube and YouTube's success, one of the best ways you can drive growth, particularly if you have a very small amount of subscribers, is to draw people in with your visuals and draw people in with your title. Create some mystery, make them want to click, make them want to go in there. And I'm not saying do like clickbait, but what I'm saying is create something that entices people. I see sometimes people will do like Homestead vlog number 43 and like as a title, and that, and it's like your worst, blurriest image of you walking around the garden. Like, when you do that, nobody's going to know what you're talking about, and you're never going to draw new people in. You might be able to get the people who are watching your other videos to watch, but you're never going to get those new people. And so the more you can be specific about what you're showing, the more you can tell a story with the image of your thumbnail, the better. And so I always start there. But from that, once I have a sense of the story and I have a sense of the thumbnail, I go out and start shooting, and I will typically do a combination of two things. One, I'm either gathering sort of action or B-roll shots. So, for example, just today I was out there shooting a video about putting up an electric fence. And so I went out and I had the camera, and I'm, you know, kind of stringing stuff, putting up the clips, setting the T-posts, doing the whole 9 yards. But then I also every so often would stop and I do explanation shots. And the explanation shots are me right in front of the camera saying, well, now what I have to do is go put the clips on the T-post, and then I have to run the wire through the clip. The reason I do those types of sort of two different types of shots is I'm not very good at doing a lot of the farm work. And if I have to like try to explain while I'm doing it, I just do a terrible job. I like our buddy, Al Lumna, does an incredible job of explaining what he's doing while he's doing it, going about his daily chores. That's not me. And so what I'm much better at is I'll just go do it and then explain what's going on. And so as I shoot, I get those two types of things. And then I'll put it all together. And so once I'm done shooting, just like you, I'll take all my footage, copy it to an external hard drive. You know, every couple of months I'll buy a new one, and I'll just save all that old footage, because a lot of times when I'm explaining something about the farm, I'm referring to something from 2 months ago or 6 months ago or a year ago. And so I like to pull that shot back and show it there. So, you know, if I'm saying, oh, I remember when this big gigantic duck was just a little tiny weird looking duckling, and I'll do that sequence right there with the editing, because the more B-roll you show, I think it makes it more dynamic and visually interesting. And unlike your editing process, my editing process, I do it in Adobe Premiere. And what I'll do is I'll go take all of my footage and I'll find all of the clips and I'll break them into chunks into, okay, here's me saying this phrase, here's me saying that phrase, and I'll label it and make a bin and actually have a color coding system that I use for B-roll shots versus talking shots. And I'll string it all together. I'll try to see, does the story match the sketch I had? And is there a structure to it? Is there like setting up the beginning and the conflict? Do I build some stakes? Do I create some sort of resolution? And what's changed at the end of this story? You know, I try to show each of those things, and I'm doing that in the editing process by cutting clips out, taking them out, adding stuff in, and I'm structuring it. And then once I've structured that, I'll add certain things like music and other kind of niceties and try to polish it all out. But I want to make sure I have the story before I add the, I don't know, icing on the cake.
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good. I think like what you're talking about, and this is something that I think that we are the same in creating very different content with very different process, is like, I don't ever want to waste people's time. And so I always want to keep my video moving, even though my purpose and my desire is to create this really laid back, peaceful, relaxing visit with a friend. There's not a lot of lull. I'm looking, like you said, like keeping that visual interest. Like I'm going from one thing or another, I'm moving. It's not, you know, and sometimes like I'll get caught with two, you know, like more than I like just of the same, like holding the camera, and it's a little long, but I try to move around and like keep things visually interesting. And it's the same thing for me, like when I'm creating teaching content. I want to keep it moving, and I don't want to be super repetitive. I want to make sure I'm getting the information to people in a way, and I think if you do that, you can create a lot longer videos. People, it's not the length. People just don't, you know, want to watch something that's dragging.
It's the density, I find. So if you're packing more stuff in, you could get away with half an hour. You could probably even get away with an hour. You know, our friend Meg Holler, right? She made this video, I think it was at the beginning of this year, back when they were deciding on where they wanted to live for their forever homestead, right? And it's this tremendous video because it takes so much B-roll and so much content from their year-plus long journey and condenses it down to, I think it's like 55 minutes or something. And so you think about that, you watch that video and you're locked in, you're just watching it constantly. And it's not about, oh, this is too long a video. It's about, there's so much content here I can keep watching. If it was just, you know, Meg and Ben in front of a camera talking for an hour, I think people would get bored and I don't think it would work. But because it kept moving and because it kept telling a story, you get permission to tell as long a story as you'd like on YouTube.
Yeah, it's funny. Meg actually edited a large amount of that video at my kitchen table when they were here for Christmas. It took a long time because it was a lot of clips put in there. But I agree. And honestly, this is something that I've discussed with a lot of people, is video length, because people seem to get really hung up on how long are your videos supposed to be. And I don't think that we can look at the length of the video and accurately say if you're producing good content. The length has nothing to do with it. It has to do with the density. I like that word for this, because it also, I think you have to consider your audience. And I think this is something that I accidentally stumbled upon. But I started doing garden tours. My garden tours are 40 minutes long on average. That's a long YouTube video. But the audience of people who would watch a garden tour are gardeners. Gardeners are patient people. They don't have they don't have a Twitter attention span. They don't have a Vine attention span. They have a garden attention span. And so to put on a relaxing video of someone walking through their garden and passionately talking about it and making sure you're changing the camera angles and showing different things and talking and setting the camera down and picking it up, like keeping the visual interest while creating this long video that is full of information and beauty and peaceful, relaxing music, the retention on those videos is ridiculous. And I can really think that if you look at what like technically went right with my channel at the beginning, I knew nothing about anything with YouTube, but I had something like 25-minute average watch time across my channel because people watch those long videos. And YouTube's like, oh wow, people like this girl, and they'll watch her for a long time, because YouTube doesn't care if you're jumping on a trampoline. If people are watching it, they're gonna push it, you know? And so that's largely what happened with those long videos. So yeah, density. That's a good word.
Yeah. No, but I think your point is so well pointed too, is it all comes back to that audience. And if you're creating content that's connecting with other people, they're going to stay, they're going to want to watch, they're going to become a viewer of yours. And so I think regardless of what type of process you take and whether you're doing the pretty simple, straightforward model that you use or the highly complicated version that I've got going, either way, as long as you're focused on connecting with that audience, that's what's going to make it work. It's not about using the right editing software or having the right work process. It's having the right work process that works for your audience and for you.